Welcome back, guys. So now let's build the example of choreography pattern in Saga. So first of all, we will create the Kafka configuration file. So I will write the Kafka service, or I will write Kafka config is a better word. And in the Kafka config folder, I will create a file called Kafka service. Okay, so here we will write the logic of the Kafka configuration, and we will configure the Kafka server there. So I need to install the package npm install Kafka.js. So this package is installed. So let me import. Okay, so now let's create the instance of the Kafka server. So I will write Kafka is equal to new Kafka, and in this instance we will pass two configurations. One is the client ID, which is, I can keep any name I want. So in my case I'm keeping it Saga order service, and in the broker I need to pass the URL or the path for my Kafka server. So this is in my case localhost 9092. Okay, so now I'm done with this. So we will write two variables and we will utilize them in our order service class. So first is the producer, cost producer is equal to Kafka dot producer, and other is the consumer. Let me correct the spelling, export, and other one is export cost consumer is equal to Kafka dot consumer. So I'm writing this consumer service because we will consume the messages from order service and inventory service. So over there I need to specify the name of the group, which is the Saga group. Okay, so you can keep the name, any name you want. So let's write another function where we will instantiate uh, the producer and the consumer. So async function init Kafka, and over there I will write await producer dot connect and await consumer dot connect, and then let me write the console dot log and here also consumer is connected. Okay, so this is what we need to do here. So let me explain you this code a bit. So I created the Kafka instance and I exported two variables, one the producer and other one is the consumer, and in the init function I just connected both of these, and we will utilize these all settings in our order service. So let's utilize them. Import from Kafka config dot Kafka service. Okay, so here I am going to import all three variables which I exported in my Kafka configuration file. So we will build very simple example so that we could know that how the code is working. So in the create order, once the order is created, I will produce the message that order has been created and specify the order ID. So let's do it. Await producer dot send, and here I'm going to name the topic, which is order created, and message. I mean, I'm just keeping the example as simple as I can. So value is JSON dot stringify and order ID. Just let's pass the object here, order ID. Okay, so once the order will create, then we will produce this message, and my inventory service will consume that message. So we need to write the consumer for our payment and inventory services also. So let's do it in our start listeners method. So here what I will do, I will initialize the Kafka consumer and the producer. So await init Kafka. So underneath these lines, I will write the code for the consumer, which will subscribe the inventory service with the topic inventory reserved, and we will subscribe the payment service also with the topic payment failed and payment succeeded. Okay, so after writing these consumers, I need to write the code which just keep on listening these consumers. So let's write it. Run, and each message is the iteration. So async, in the topic, let me destructure this topic and message. Okay, so let's build this, and here I'm writing that if there is no message, then message dot value, then write console dot log no message, and here we will return. Okay, and after this if condition, I will destructure the order ID. So const order id is equal to JSON dot parse, and over there I will consume the message which I am receiving when my consumer will run. So message dot value dot toString. Okay, so now I have received the message, and over there we will move these if conditions underneath this code block, and in inventory reserve section we will call the function and do the necessary action into this function. So let me write the function handle inventory reserved, and I will pass the order ID as string, right? And over here I just, let's say, console.log inventory has been reserved against against the order. Okay, so this is a simple message. So we will see that how we are coming on these console.logs when we will run the whole flow, and then we can write the logic of subtracting and changing the database status afterwards. So over there, if the topic is inventory, then we will call handle inventory, and let me write the async await and pass the order ID which we destructured there. And the same cases with the payment services. So for example, if I receive the message that my payment has failed, then I will trigger this method. So payment is failed, and over there I will write if the payment succeed, payment processed. So I will say payment processed successfully, and I will call these methods accordingly in their if conditions, just like this. Okay, so that's it with the configuration service. So let me explain you what I have done so far. So let me make it a bit bigger. Okay, so uh, here we consume, let me get rid of this. So here we consume the service which we configured, Kafka service which we configured here in the Kafka service.ts file, and then when the order is created, we will produce the message and we will trigger these methods once we receive the message from the inventory service and from the payment service, and we can change the status of the order accordingly. So now let's call this in our app.ts file. So we'll go to app.ts file, and over there I will import my order service, import order service, order service from my order service. Okay, and then we will import the Kafka configuration there also. So init Kafka, and after we import all these two files, let's call the method here await order service dot create order and pass the order ID there. And underneath it, we need to initialize the Kafka dot then, and over there just put the lambda function and call the order service dot start listener. So this line will start the consumer as well as the producer. And let's start our Node.js server. And over there, just write console.log server is started on the port. Just mention the port here and catch console.error. Okay, so now let's start the server. I have enabled the debugger already, and let's run this. So you can see that my server has been started and it started to listen the Kafka. So now let's configure rest of the other services in our next video.